A very good morning, class 9. I hope that you all are in pink of your health. Now, coming to the last section of the chapter, sections 5, 6, and the rise of the Napoleon. So, listen to me carefully because today we are going to end the French Revolution. Page number 21, section 5, the abolition of slavery. Before the French Revolution in 1789, France had three colonies of the Caribbean: Martinique, Guadeloupe, and San Domingo under their control. These places were major suppliers of sugar, coffee, indigo, and tobacco. But the reluctance of Europeans to go and work in distant and unfamiliar lands meant a shortage of labor on the plantations. This was met by a triangular slave trade. It was an agreement signed between Europe, Africa, and the Americans. The slave trade began in the 17th century. French, French merchants sailed from where they are sailing from the ports of Bordeaux or Nantes to the African coast where they bought slaves, all the local Negroes. They bought slaves from local chieftains. They were being branded uh, according to their physique, age, they were being branded and shackled. The slaves were packed tightly into ships for a 3 month long voyage across the Atlantic to the Caribbean. This is also one of the most dreadful stories of the past era, where how ruthless and brutal we could be to our people where we have established colonies. Then they were sold to plantation owners. The exploitation of slave labor made it possible to meet the growing demand in European markets for sugar, coffee, indigo. Every economic prosperity was directly related to this flourishing slave trade. Throughout the 18th century, there was little criticism, but the National Convention voted to abolish slavery in all French colonies on February 4, 1794. The National Assembly had long debates before that about whether the rights of man should be extended to all French subjects. All French subjects means जो फ्रेंच दूसरी कंट्रीज में भेजे जा रहे हैं काम करने के लिए, क्या उनको भी वही राइट ऑफ मैन एंड सिटीजन मिलना चाहिए, including those in the colonies? But it did not pass any laws, fearing opposition from the businessmen whose incomes depend on the slave trade. It was finally the convention which in 1794 legislated to free all slaves from the French overseas possession. But it was only a short term measure. After 10 years, Napoleon reintroduced slavery. Now, coming to page number 22, the revolution and everyday life. The revolution in everyday life. How did the revolution affect the everyday life of the French people? It was the revolutionary ideas of equality, liberty transformed the people, clothes even, the language they spoke, the books they read. With the abolition of censorship, freedom of press was enabled, voicing of opinions and counter opinions. Art was flourishing, visuals and oral arts were being designed to, to enable even the common man who could not read and write to relate, how he could relate with the ideas of liberty when he is not able to read. So there was visual and oral arts, so that each and every man, each and every common person can relate to the ideas of equality, of justice. Now, coming to the last section, the rise of the Napoleon. The rise of the Napoleon, he was a military genius. He crowned himself in 1804. He wanted to modernize France by establishing new industries. He promoted trade by building roads and canals. He introduced many laws such as protection of private property. He was the one who introduced the uniform system of weights and measures provided by the decimal system. Earlier हम लोग के barter system और भी बहुत सारे trade practices चलते थे. Napoleon set out to conquer neighboring European countries, dispossessing dynasties and creating his own kingdoms. He also established relationships with the Pope. He brought clergy back. A new constitution was formed, as a result of which four legislative bodies and three executive bodies were established. The ideas of liberty and but he was, as a military riser, he was a military genius. He was being seen as a liberator who would bring freedom for the people. But soon the Napoleonic armies came to be viewed everywhere as an invading force. He was finally defeated at Waterloo in 1815. Many of his measures that carried the revolutionary ideas of liberty and modern laws in other parts of Europe had an impact on people long after Napoleon had left. Now, what we are left with is the ideas of liberty, the ideas of democratic rights, but the most important legacy of the French Revolution. It spread from France to rest of the Europe during the 19th century, where feudal systems were abolished. In India, Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Desrosiers talked of the significance of the French Revolution, and many others debated the ideas of post-revolutionary Europe. The development in those colonies, in turn, reshaped these ideas of societal change everywhere. So, now we are coming to an end of this French Revolution. I hope that you are having a strong grip on what French Revolution is, on the question and answers which are already provided to you in my last class. I have given you NCRT questions and answers which you are supposed to write, which you are supposed to do it fair, but in the previous notebook of class 8, in any of the social studies notebook where the pages are being left, put the date, put the chapter's name, and do it very neatly and intelligently. And so I would love to conclude this chapter on one famous quote by Martin Luther King Jr. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. I repeat, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. On this very note, thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, and keep reading. Thank you.